This will sound very strange, but it is predicted that NASA's helicopter on the planet Mars will crash on July 17th, 2022. Today's date is July 15th, 2022. The post date that this video is posted proves that this prediction is made ahead of time, as well as does this time-stamped email by Google and this forensic notes document. If you are skeptical for some reason, please email me and I will forward these to you. Again, this prediction is being made ahead of time. Today's date is July 15th, and on July 17th, it is predicted that NASA's helicopter named Ingenuity will crash on the red planet Mars. God uses the planet Mars, the red planet, as symbolism for the red dragon, the Antichrist, described in Bible prophecy. Incidentally, I have zero news of when the next flight is. In fact, NASA does not give dates for its flights. It's been the pattern since the beginning that with the news finds out maybe sometimes a few days after NASA flew the helicopter. But they don't announce the dates in advance of when the flights are, so there's no way of knowing if there will even be a flight on Sunday, July 17th. In other words, not only am I predicting that the helicopter will crash on July 17th, but I am predicting that there will be a flight on July 17th. In Bible prophecy, the color red is associated with the Antichrist. The second horseman that rides the red horse symbolizes the Antichrist, as does the red dragon in the book of Revelation. And God uses the red planet Mars as Antichrist symbolism, and the Antichrist will replace U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris after she will die in a plane crash. Harris will die in a plane crash on July 20th, 3 days after the 30th flight of NASA's Ingenuity helicopter. Its 30th flight will hint at the number 3 and this 3 days in between these two aviation crashes. Jesus said that he saw Satan falling like lightning from heaven, which is exactly what will be symbolized when Kamala Harris will fall from the sky and die in a plane crash, which will lead to the rise of the Antichrist. The Antichrist will become president again through the replacement of Kamala Harris. Ingenuity will crash 10 days after UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson resigned. He resigned in front of his 10 Downing Street residence. Johnson symbolizes 10 days of testing of faith that is described in the book of Revelation. In April of 2020, Johnson went into intensive care 10 days after having tested positive for COVID-19, leaving 10 Downing Street. The big news story associated with this was who would be running 10 Downing Street, which is a euphemism for the head of power of the UK, as is the White House a euphemism for the head of power of the United States. Johnson left 10 Downing Street and went into intensive care 10 days after he tested positive for COVID-19. And the date that he went into intensive care was April 6, 2020, and April 6 is 4/6, which hints at 4 plus 6 equals 10. Boris Johnson went into the intensive care unit on the same day that the official U.S. death toll for coronavirus reached 10,000, and the day that a Christian brother of Torch for Christ Ministries posted his famous 10 cities in 10 days video, which was a symbolic John the Baptist sign. Hence why this sign involving Boris Johnson. In the book of Revelation, Jesus said that the faith of Christians would be tested for a symbolic 10 days, and these Christians' faith will be tested by the Antichrist. The symbolic crash of Ingenuity on the red planet Mars, which is Antichrist symbolism, will be 10 days after Boris Johnson resigned from 10 Downing Street in front of 10 Downing Street. This July 7th, 2022 date on which Boris Johnson resigned was in turn 444 days after Ingenuity's first flight on Mars, the first ever flight on Mars. And Ingenuity's first flight was the same day that Kamala Harris was at an electric bus manufacturer in High Point, North Carolina, to promote her and Biden's $2.3 trillion infrastructure and jobs package. The electric bus manufacturer symbolizes lightning, and the city High Point, North Carolina, symbolizes the high place, which in the Bible is a metaphor for heaven, which parallels when Jesus said he saw Satan falling like lightning from heaven. In fact, the name Barack Obama in Hebrew means lightning from heaven. Barak in Hebrew means lightning. O in Aramaic, the language Jesus would have spoken, is from, and Bama is the word for high place, which in the Bible is a metaphor for heaven. In Isaiah chapter 14, Lucifer fell from the high place, which is a metaphor for heaven. As well, the Jews would conduct their false idolatrous worship on the tops of mountains, and a euphemism for this was the high places. And so Barack Obama means lightning from heaven. Either Jesus didn't know what he was saying when he said this, or he knew that there would be a famous president named Barack Obama and said this anyway, knowing that it would confuse us, or he was revealing the identity of the Antichrist. Obviously, the latter option is the only one that makes any sense. And so again, NASA's Ingenuity helicopter will crash 444 days after its first flight, which was the same day that Kamala Harris was visiting an electric bus manufacturer in High Point, North Carolina. She was again there to promote her and Biden's $2.3 trillion infrastructure and jobs package. 444 days hints at 44, and 2.3 trillion hints at the number 23. God frequently pairs the numbers 44 and 23 together to confirm the signs and connections and to reveal the identity of the Antichrist, the 44th president, the basketball president, that wore jersey number 23 when he played basketball in high school. From the most central prophecy in the Bible, in Daniel chapter 9, the number 69 is symbolism for the beginning of the end times period of the Antichrist's rule. Furthermore, in this prophecy in Daniel chapter 9, the number 69 is in context of a period of time, 69 weeks. God uses 690 days connections to symbolize this number 69. July 7th will be exactly 690 days after rare massive summer thunderstorms hit the Bay Area in California on the morning of August 16th, 2020. This was just a few days after Joe Biden had announced that Kamala Harris would be his vice president candidate running mate. 2,500 lightning strikes triggered 4 of the top 6 biggest ever wildfires in California history, and they killed 23 people. God uses the number 23 to reveal the identity of the Antichrist, the basketball president that wore jersey number 23. These fires that killed 23 people began 203 days, which is a number that God uses to symbolize the number 23 and to reveal the Antichrist. These fires that killed 23 people began 203 days after basketball star Kobe Bryant died in a helicopter crash in California. At the time, Harris was the senator representing California. Her death in a plane crash will symbolize when Jesus said he saw Satan falling like lightning from heaven, and her death and her replacement will lead to the return of the basketball president that wore jersey number 23. God pairs a certain and very limited number of numbers together in his true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections, which is only being explained on this channel, in order to develop his big picture of signs. His true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections works on the principle of second and third and multiple witnesses confirming a matter, as the Bible says is required, which is what makes what is being explained on this channel true and not a product of one's imagination, and what makes it different and unique than everything else on the internet that claims to be an analysis of God's prophetic signs. If we think about it, the simplest way to provide second witnesses to confirm things is through pairing a certain limited number of numbers together. God frequently pairs the numbers 9 and 23 together to confirm the signs and connections and to reveal the identity of the Antichrist. This has been explained many times in many other videos, and so rather than playing a brief 7-minute clip explaining this a little bit, I'll just state one thing, which is that the basketball president that wore jersey number 23 became president in 2009. In Kobe Bryant's helicopter crash, 9 people died. The departure of his flight was just after 9 a.m. And as was just explained, this 9 deaths just after 9 a.m. connects with 203 days to the lightning strikes and wildfires that killed 23 people. This is an amazing pairing of 9 and 23 that confirm the signs and connections, reveal the identity of the Antichrist, and is pointing to how the Antichrist will come to power through the death of Kamala Harris in a plane crash. And again, the deaths of 23 people from the lightning strikes on August 16, 2020 were 690 days before Boris Johnson resigned from 10 Downing Street, which will be 10 days before NASA's helicopter will crash on the red planet Mars, which will be its 30th flight, and will be 3 days before Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash on July 20th. And so the death of basketball star Kobe Bryant in a helicopter crash connects with 203 days to 23 deaths, which in turn connects with 690 days and then 10 days to NASA's helicopter crash on Mars. God uses the city of Chicago and also its sports teams to identify the Antichrist, the president from Chicago, the basketball president that wore jersey number 23. On the same day that the California lightning wildfires that killed 23 people began, on August 16, 2020, while playing in Chicago, the Chicago White Sox hit 4 consecutive home runs. This was only the 10th time in baseball history that this happened. The first of the 4 consecutive home runs was hit by player number 10. The 10th time in baseball history that 4 consecutive home runs were hit began with a home run by player number 10, and this was 690 days before Boris Johnson resigned from 10 Downing Street, 10 days before the predicted date that NASA's helicopter will crash on the red planet Mars, which is Antichrist symbolism. God uses pictures on the pitching mound to symbolize the Antichrist on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem in Bible prophecy. These 4 consecutive home runs hit by Chicago were hit off of St. Louis Cardinals pitcher player number 77. God uses the city of St. Louis, which is famous for its gateway to the West Arch, as symbolism for the beginning of judgment on the nation, as in the Bible, judgment on the city symbolically begins at the gates. Cardinals are a type of bird. God uses the baseball team named Cardinals to point to the rise of the Antichrist through the death of Kamala Harris in a plane crash due to a bird strike. 690 days after the beginning of the California lightning wildfires and the game in which Chicago hit 4 consecutive home runs off of Cardinals pitcher number 77, will be the date July 7th, which is 7/7, which hints at 77. On 7/7, Boris Johnson resigned from 10 Downing Street 10 days before the 30th flight of NASA's helicopter, which will crash 3 days before the death of Kamala Harris in a plane crash due to a bird strike, which will lead to the rise of the Antichrist. In Bible prophecy, the number 666 is associated with the Antichrist. 6 plus 6 plus 6 days before Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash due to a bird strike on July 20th, the St. Louis Cardinals became the 11th team to hit 4 consecutive home runs. On July 2nd, the Cardinals hit 4 consecutive home runs off of Philadelphia pitcher player number 44. God uses pitchers on the pitching mound to symbolize the Antichrist on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem in Bible prophecy. The Antichrist is the 44th president, which is why these 4 consecutive home runs were hit off of pitcher number 44. The 44th president will become president again through the death of Kamala Harris in a plane crash due to a bird strike, which is why it was the team named Cardinals that hit these 4 consecutive home runs. God uses the city of Philadelphia to symbolize the church, and this pitcher, number 44, plays for Philadelphia. The Antichrist 44th president will persecute the church. It is predicted that NASA's helicopter on Mars will crash on its 30th flight. And the reason it will crash on its 30th flight is that from the Bible, the number 30 or 30th is symbolism for a king. David and Joseph were made kings at the age of 30 years old. Mars is symbolism for the Antichrist king, and this is why the helicopter will crash on the red planet Mars on its 30th flight. It will symbolize the Antichrist king. Its 29th flight, in other words, its last flight, was on June 11th, and it flew for 66.6 seconds. This last flight of this helicopter before it will crash, that lasted 66.6 seconds, which is symbolism for the Antichrist, will be 36 days before it will crash on July 17th. Its last flight was on June 11th. It flew for 66.6 seconds, and this will be 36 days before it will crash. 36 is symbolism for 666, as 36 is 6 times 6, and also 2 times 18, which is 6 plus 6 plus 6, and also the 36th triangular number, which in a triangle of numbers, the last number in the 36th row is 666. And 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 all the way up to 36 equals 666. This is why the helicopter will crash on the red planet Mars, which is Antichrist symbolism, 36 days after it flew for 66.6 seconds. In Bible prophecy, the red dragon is symbolism for the Antichrist, which is why on May 14th, 2021, China's probe to Mars descended and landed on the planet Mars. I believe it was their first probe. China is symbolism for the red dragon. A big part of the news story was its 9 minutes of terror. It's similarly called 7 minutes of terror when NASA's probes have landed on Mars, but the news story for some reason this time mentioned 9 minutes of terror, which is a reference to when the scientists are on the edge of their seats waiting to find out if their probe will make a successful landing, because it's very dangerous and tricky to land in the thin atmosphere of Mars and making a descent. And it takes 7 minutes for communication from the probe to be relayed back to Earth, but for some reason this time it was referenced as 9 minutes. 9 minutes of terror. I assume the reason is that Mars was further away from Earth in its orbit at the time of the Chinese probe compared to when NASA's probes have landed. So it was 9 minutes, and China's Mars probe officially landed just after 2300 GMT time, and then it took 17 minutes for it to unfold its solar panels and send communication back to Earth. These are the two main numbers in all of the news stories regarding this Mars probe landing. And this is because God pairs the numbers 9 and 23 together and the numbers 9 and 17 together. So it was 9 minutes to descend and then 17 minutes for the wingspan to, or the solar panels to unfold. And that is because this is how God's true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections works. It works on the principle of second and third and multiple witnesses confirming matters, and that's what makes it true and not a product of one's imagination, and what makes it different and unique than everything else that's on the internet. And so the reason, and if you were to think about it, this would be how he would provide second and third witnesses, by selecting just a limited number of numbers and pairing them together. The reason why he pairs 9 and 17 together is because, for one thing, the Antichrist was president from 2009 until 2017 and arrived first in Washington as the senator from Illinois during the 109th Congress, lived on 109th Street when he studied at Columbia University, and when he returns as president and Antichrist to the District of Columbia, it will be during the 117th Congress, which began on January 2021. And also, God pairs 9 and 23 together for the same thing. It reveals the identity of the Antichrist, and both numbers from the Bible symbolize judgment. And this is explained in other videos many other times. And so rather than playing a 6 to 7 minute clip explaining this again, you'll just take my word for it. But one reason why 9 and 23 are paired together is because the Antichrist basketball president became president in 2009 and wore jersey number 23. But that doesn't even scratch the surface for the profound reasons for pairing 9 and 23 together. Now, I mentioned that the China probe, I didn't really get into that enough. The China probe was symbolism for the dragon descending from outer space, because in Revelation chapter 12, it is said that the archangel Michael, at the beginning of the end times period, throws down the dragon and his angels from heaven to earth. Well, the probe descending from outer space onto Mars symbolizes, outer space is the second heaven. And so this symbolized because, China is symbolism for the red dragon. And so this red dragon probe descended from the second heaven, outer space, to Mars. Now, how this fits into the big picture or trail of signs leading to the crash of NASA's helicopter is that the date that China's probe descended onto Mars was May 14th, 2021, which is exactly 60 weeks before July 7th. Now, the reason for this and why this is relevant, 60 weeks, is because 60 weeks is 420 days. And in Bible prophecy, the number 42 is symbolism for the Antichrist and his period of rule. It is said that the Antichrist will rule for a symbolic 42 months. In other words, it's not a literal 42 months, but this is mentioned a few times in Bible prophecy, including in Revelation chapter 12, which speaks about the red dragon being thrown down from heaven to earth, which is symbolized by China's probe, China being the red dragon, descending from the second heaven to Mars, the red planet Mars. And so that's why 420 days is relevant. That's why God uses 420 days, because it symbolizes the number 42, which is in context of a period of time in Bible prophecy. 420 days is a period of time also. But what further confirms this, in other words, the instances in which there are 420 days connections have all come in context of a 66 weeks connection. In other words, 420 days is 60 weeks, but that is part of a 66 weeks connection, which is broken into 6 weeks followed by 60 weeks. The reason for that is because 6 weeks is 42 days. And so in God's 66 weeks connections that are broken into 6 weeks and 60 weeks, they end up being also 42 days followed by 420 days, or vice versa. And the reason for 66 weeks connections is because 66 is symbolism for 666, which is used in association with the Antichrist that is described in the last and 66th book in the Bible. And so that's relevant here. And when we subtract 66 exact weeks from July 7th, we also get extremely relevant prophetic signs. These occurred on April 1st, 2021. Again, exactly 6 weeks before China's probe descended onto Mars. On April 1st, 2021, the big news story was the court injunction on the sale of the Satan shoes. A famous rapper sold 666 pairs of Nike basketball shoes that he had converted into Satan shoes that contained a real drop of human blood, and also on the sides of the shoe was inscribed Luke 10:18. This is the passage in the Bible in which Jesus said he saw Satan falling like lightning from heaven. The 666 pairs of shoes sold for $1,018 each, which the rapper said was symbolism for Luke 10:18. These are basketball shoes, and the death of Kamala Harris in a plane crash and her replacement will lead to the rise of the Antichrist, the basketball president. What further confirms this is that from April 1st and the court injunction on the sale of these shoes, 2,520 days back was the day that lightning struck Mecca's clock tower, causing a power outage in Mecca and causing the power outage of the tower and the clock. This is absolutely amazing because in Bible prophecy, 2,520 days is also symbolism for the period of the Antichrist's rule. Again, though it is only symbolism. We are already in the 2,520 days, and we are also already inside the 42 months. And make no mistake, the reason why God has given me a voice through this prediction is to prove this. Mecca is the home of the spiritual enemy, and so this lightning that struck the Tower of Mecca, and towers in the Bible are also in context of extreme judgment from God. So this is extreme judgment symbolism. The lightning struck the tower, causing a power outage of the clock. And then 2,520 days later are the shoes, which have Luke 10:18 on the sides and sold for $1,018. And then exactly 66 weeks after this was the day that Boris Johnson resigned from 10 Downing Street, which will be 10 days before the day that NASA's helicopter will crash on the red planet Mars, which will also symbolize Luke 10:18, when Jesus said he saw Satan falling like lightning from heaven. And this 66 weeks is broken into 6 weeks and 60 weeks, which points to the day that China's probe landed on the red planet Mars. Also, an additional confirmation for the prophetic relevance of the Satan shoes prophetic sign on April 1st, 2021. This was also the day that news of the Matt Gaetz scandal broke, which became known as Gaetz Gate. And again, in the Bible, Gates is symbolism for judgment, as judgment begins at the gates. The Gaetz Gate scandal broke, and on this day, Matt Gaetz was claiming that he was being blackmailed for $25 million. Kamala Harris's death in a plane crash will symbolize Luke 10:18, which again is inscribed on the Satan shoes on the same day as the Matt Gaetz story, and her death in a plane crash will lead to the rise of the Antichrist, who will replace Kamala Harris and then replace Joe Biden through the use of the 25th Amendment. Hence why the news story regarding blackmail for $25 million. What these two prophetic signs have in common is that the Satan Shoes Nike lawsuit is a legal story, and the Gaetz Gate news story that broke on the same day is also a legal story. It was reported that the FBI was investigating him, and the accusation of extortion for 25 million is a legal story, and the big upcoming controversy will very much be a legal matter when Barack Obama will become president again through the 25th Amendment. What is also amazing is that the lightning strike that struck Mecca's clock tower connects with the Satan shoes, which connects with the day that NASA's probe will crash onto Mars, which connects to the day that Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash, which will symbolize when Jesus said he saw Satan falling like lightning from heaven. In other words, the lightning strike on Mecca's clock tower connects with the day that Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash. One reason why God uses Kobe Bryant is because he wore the jersey number 24. And this is because the Antichrist will be defeated at the second coming of Lord Jesus Christ in 2024. And at this time, in 2024, the Antichrist will be thrown into the lake of fire, which is why Kobe Bryant, player number 24, played for the Lakers. And this prediction will prove this, that the second coming will be in 2024. Furthermore, it will prove that God's true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections is being explained and only being explained on this channel. Make sure you watch every minute of every video on this channel, obviously. You'll no doubt should want to do that when this prediction comes to pass. Please like the video and please let me know what you think with a comment. And when this prediction comes to pass, share this video with everyone you know and do not ever stop sharing it in social media. Post it everywhere. Read the homepage of the website, TrumpPrediction.com.